What's going on, y'all? It's Brady and welcome back to Brady's Book Nut. So today I've been thinking a lot about future TBR. I know I'm coming up on halfway through the year, so I've been thinking a lot about what I want to read and kind of thinking about the series that I want to start and get into. And I kind of wanted to give you guys a little taste of what the rest of my year is looking at and kind of where I'm going next, and especially the sci-fi fantasy, because all of these are sci-fi fantasy series that I'm looking forward to getting into, or I'm looking forward to finishing, kind of that I've already started. So I got 10 series today. Like I said, I tried to keep it short. I feel like I could go on and on just naming them, but realistically, a lot of them I'm not going to get to until later because I'm trying to mix in some other genres and stuff and keep my reading taste pretty mixed. So, like I said, start off with the three I want to finish the quickest, things that I've started, and I'm looking forward to finishing up so that I can clear that space for something else. First off, we have Book of the Faithful and the Fallen. I've loved this series so far. Actually, you can see right here, this is some of my TBR for the month. Ruin is in my May TBR. I'll be finishing book 3 up, and then in June, doesn't matter what, I'm finishing the Book of Faithful and Fallen up. This is just a good modern fantasy series, and it's dark. There are stakes. The world building is great. There's no way that you should have 4 books this size and they be page turners. Like, legitimately, they are exciting from start to finish. There may be some complaints from the first one. You gotta let John Gwynn set that foundation, kind of build that world. But it's a world of giants and prophecies and the battle between good and evil. But like I said, there's stakes. People aren't guaranteed to go on, and sometimes their lives are cut short. So it's definitely something fun. It's not overly gory. It's not like super edgy. It's just this perfect blend of modern fantasy. And if you're looking to get into fantasy, I would almost suggest starting here, because this is something that it spills time world building, but that's kind of a second hand. It's very much about the narrative and kind of what's going on ahead. So if you're looking to start somewhere with fantasy and you're looking for something that's pretty adultish, pretty like gonna keep your attention, especially if you're newer to fantasy, start with John Gwynn and his Book of Faithful and the Fallen. Like I said, this is book 4. Malice is book 1, so I'd suggest starting there. Next up is something that I feel like everybody has been reading lately because of the show and whatnot. That is The Witcher. So I'm kind of at a weird point in The Witcher. I've read 3 of the books, and I've yet to start the mainline series. So Blood of Elves is like the first book that tells a continuous story from what I understand. But I've read The Last Wish, I've read Season of Storms, and I've read The Sword of Destiny. So the 2 short story collections, and then the 1 book that was published well after the series, but as a prequel. So I've read those 3, and I'm kind of like waiting to start. I don't really know what I'm doing yet with it. It's one of those, like, I want to throw it in, but then I get reading other stuff. I want to do this and that. So it's kind of like on the back burner, but it's something I won't finish by the end of the year. So I'll probably start throwing in at least a book a month as we get into that, like, middle part of the year and second half. Kind of burn through it, get it done, finish it up before 2023. And this next one up is a recent addition to my whole scope of reading, and that is Miss Sarah J. Maas, the ACOTAR series. So like I said, this is book 2. I just read the first one in May, so it was one of the first, I think it was the first book I read in May, and I was very impressed. Like I said, it's an adult fantasy series, a lot of fairy, a little bit of spice for those interested in smut. It's got a little bit of stuff, and from what I've heard, it gets a lot more smutty in the series. So it's something that's out of my wheelhouse, but this is my wife's favorite series she's ever read, and this is her favorite book, which is the second one. So it's something I committed to reading for her so we could talk about it. So like I said, this is something I'm definitely excited to finish. And honestly, this might take precedent over some of the other ones just because it's relatively a short series. So you have this one, then you have these 2, and then there's a 5th one. A Court of Silver Flames. That's pretty brief, relatively. Or I shouldn't say pretty brief, but it's not any bigger than this. Like, it's another 800-page book. But that's part of fantasy. A lot of people don't like that, but hey, that's how it goes. So those are the ones I look forward to finishing this year. Now we're going to dive into the 7 series that I am most excited to start. So I'll start out with a sci-fi series. That is Pierce Brown and his Red Rising saga. So like I said, I actually own I believe there's 6 now because there's the second trilogy, but I own the first 5 just because from what I've heard, Pierce Brown is an excellent writer. The concept of the series is something that's really interesting to me. A lot of dealing with like the differences in like social or socioeconomic status and stuff, and like kind of like a caste system where people are, their collar that they're associated with is very representative of their place in society, and they have different jobs, and kind of like a lot of politics and kind of intergalactic space faring from what I understand. I'm really excited. This next one is something that I've been excited to, but I'm also like super intimidated by it because it's a big commitment. It's massive as far as the scope of the series, but it's one of those like epic scales and one of the greatest fantasy series of all time. But again, it seems big and daunting, and I know that if I start it, I'm gonna have to keep reading and finish it, and it's a little overwhelming. But that is Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series. I feel like this is a essential fantasy series that I feel bad as a fan calling myself a fan of fantasy and never having read this, but like I said, there's 15 books, and this is one of the shortest ones, other than like the 15th one, which is like a prequel. But they're all this big, at least this big. They're all just giant books, and that's really an overwhelming thing. But it's definitely a series that I look forward to starting, and I hope to get started this year. It'll be between it and one other series that I'll get to in just a moment. And next up, another series I'm super excited to dive into. Another author I'm really excited to dive into. He's got a whole lot of work. I'm excited to check him out, and that's R.A. Salvatore's Legend of Drizzt. I believe that's how you say it. I think the main allure to this, I think there's like 12 or 13 books in the series, but they're nothing crazy. I mean, this one's 350 pages, so like it's pretty approachable, something I could throw in and chug out in a couple days, kind of get my feet wet, get a taste for the series, and see if it's something I'm gonna like. But this right here, Dungeons and Dragons Forgotten Realms, a huge dungeon. I'm personally a big Dungeons and Dragons nerd, so it's super appealing to me that it is set in a D&D setting, and that alone has sparked my interest. I really don't know much about the series. I was at Barnes & Noble and had seen someone online talking about this, and so I saw it, and like I said, it's a mass market paperbacks. They're not expensive. I was like, I gotta pick it up. So it's something I'm super hyped to check out as a D&D fan. All right, and then when I was talking about another series that is going to be up between Wheel of Time and it, we're now to it, and that is Steven Erikson's Malazan, Book of the Fallen, or Malazan. I'm not sure. I hear people say it both ways. But this is a series that is also massive. I think it's 10 books, and they're all just tomes. This is by far the smallest one. I think it clocks in at almost 700 pages. So they're just tomes. Some of them are like 1,200 pages. And also, they're extremely dense. You know, page count's one thing, but when you are just packed full, and from what I understand, like this is like the truest form of in media res. Like you're thrown into the world, no explanations. You're gonna learn on the fly. You're gonna miss a lot of things, and people are like, you have to reread the series, and that just does not seem super appealing to me at the moment. There's so many books I want to read, so many things I want to get out. The idea of trying to reread a enormous fantasy series is not something that sounds super appealing, but from what I understand, I think he was like an anthropologist, so his world building is impeccable. I know that sometimes that he was a big like D&D fan himself, so a lot of the characters and the world building that was done was built in his own like D&D world, like homebrewed world, and like it's just amazing. It's also a massive universe. I think it has 27 books in it, 10 mainline books, and then like 17 novellas and stories, other stories that take place in the world. But it's enormous in scope. Probably, from what I understand, one of the most ambitious fantasy series of all time, trying to make it as real as can be. And it's daunting, but it just sounds so good. Like the appeal, the allure, the mysterious nature of it, just the overwhelming scope. It's just something that, even though it's a big commitment, you can't help but be drawn to. So, thinking about it. Next up, this is something I'm definitely going to check out because I know it's a pretty short series. I think there are 2 books out, and I think the 3rd book has been in the works forever now, and that is Patrick Rothfuss's Kingkiller Chronicles. So, there's something I'm super excited to check out. I've heard a lot about. People throw it up there as like one of the best fantasy series of all time. And even though there's like only a couple books, which has really interested me, because like I said, there's nothing unmanageable, but I've heard the world building's great. I've heard the characters are interesting, and it's just something that really appeals to my senses. I've heard that his prose is beautiful, which means a lot to me. I love to read good written word. There's something just so nice about that, nice and appealing. Excuse me, I gotta move some stuff real quick before I get into the 9th series I want to talk about, because I'm saving one for Tim. And next up, we have James S.A. Corey and the series The Expanse. I know James S.A. Corey is a combination of 2 authors. Like, this is a co-written thing. I can't remember. I think one of them's like Abraham. The last name is Abraham, but I'm not 100% sure, to tell you the truth. But from what I've heard, this is an epic series that is like Game of Thrones, but in space, is how it's been sold to me. Which, I mean, like I said, you say Game of Thrones, but I'm going to be drawn to it. It's just something I think is epic. And I think it just finished up this year. There's 9 books. And I just love these books. Like, they're just, hold on, let me pull one out and just show you these covers. Like, God, they're just absolutely gorgeous. And they look so nice on the shelf. And from what I've heard, they're just page turners, every one of them. Also, there is a show, which I'm super excited to check out, because I've heard is excellent. And like I said, if I have that companion to go with the books, that's making it go even further up on the list. I don't know where it's going to fall this year. I don't know if I'll get it started this year or early next or mid next. We don't know. You know, kind of play a lot of things by ear. How I'm feeling in the moment is how I kind of run things on this channel. Whatever feels right is what I do. And lastly, from what I understand, the current king of fantasy himself, Mr. Brando Sandoz Cosmere. And that's what I was moving a second ago, saving him for last. I've heard just incredible things. And the guy works like a fucking machine. Like, he's just insane in his writing habits. So he has earned my respect sheerly from the fact that I know I'm going to consistently be getting quality content from him. And he has earned my respect. And he's earned my money. And I'm definitely at least going to start Mistborn. But I've never read a single thing by the guy, and I already own 6 of his books. So if that doesn't sell you on the faith I have in this man, then I don't know what will. I have the 3 books in the first Mistborn saga, and then I have the first 3 books of the Stormlight Archives. I believe there's more out now, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't quite fully understand how the Cosmere works, because, like I said, never read any of the stuff. I've just heard a lot about him. I've heard a lot about his world building, his stories that are interesting, that even though he's writing these just tomes, man, I'm talking like, look at that. That's 15, or each one of those like 1,000 to 1,500 pages. Like, you're talking just 4,500 pages to like 3,900 pages. Like, just massive books. But I've heard that they're interesting all the way through, that they don't really have a whole lot of slog in them, a lot of fluff, and that's just super exciting to me. So like I said, thank you guys for watching. If you've made it this far, if you like what you see, make sure you like and subscribe. Like I said, check me out over on Instagram at Brady's Book Nook. It'd be greatly appreciated. I kind of post a lot more consistent content over there. These videos kind of get spread out. Normally one a week. I try to post a couple times a week over there. Kind of different types of content and stuff. Kind of keep my things going. A lot briefer book reviews. Kind of written ones. So like I said, if you guys like what you see, make sure you like and subscribe. And until next time, y'all, stay reading.